Hi there, my name's Jay, and I'm a former professional wrestling editor and producer, here to share my perspective about current or recent events. I know I took a longer break, but all of that's sorted out, so let's just continue on looking at Impact Wrestling's events, starting with Victory Road.
Victory Road marked the end of a pretty busy season in 2023's professional wrestling. Impact has done tons of TV specials and pay-per-views this summer, and this one will be the last one until Bound for Glory in October. Also, this takes place just 1 week before the monumental 1000th episode of Impact Wrestling, which is an incredible achievement for any wrestling promotion, but especially for one with the turbulent history of Impact Wrestling. This marks the 17th edition of the Victory Road event, which had been briefly paused in the past, but has been run annually since it was brought back in 2019, with the past 3 editions taking place in Nashville, Tennessee. Victory Road took place on September 8, 2023, in the Westchester County Center in White Plains, New York. Attendance numbers were initially reported at 620, but those numbers didn't take the general admission section into consideration, which housed a decent amount of people as well. While this show wasn't reported as a sellout and we didn't get any official numbers, it's pretty safe to assume that the attendance was somewhere between 700 and 800 people. The venue and setup also looked really good on TV.
I've been pretty excited about this event, to be honest. It's in a nice venue, ticket sales have been going well, and this is the last TV special before the biggest show of the year, Bound for Glory. So this card, that's really solid as well, should lay the groundwork for that show. So let's see what they have to offer, what they're going to build. Let's go.
Ever since winning the X Division Championship at Slammiversary, Lio Rush has not defended the belt once. He's been ducking Chris Sabin and otherwise was pretty busy being entangled in the 8-man tag storyline that reached its boiling point at Emergence. Kushida won an Ultimate X match also at Slammiversary to earn this title opportunity and has been caught up in the same storyline as Rush ever since. This isn't a really personal feud, Rush is just being a cocky heel, but things got more heated on the go-home show of Impact, where Rush ambushed Kevin Knight after a match with Kushida's signature submission hold. We start with Kushida going after Rush, but Rush keeps evading Kushida as desperately as possible. They continue this for a bit until Kushida locks in the hoverboard lock in the ropes. As the ref counts the rope break, Kushida just drops Rush. He goes for the arm again and then overpowers the champion with body slams. Kushida pops the crowd with a cartwheel onto a dropkick and sets up Rush on the top rope, follows it up with a Gamengiri. Any additional offense by Kushida gets cut off by Rush, who rakes the eyes of his challenger. Kushida regains control by going for the arm again and locks in an arm bar over the turnbuckle screw, a very creative spot. Rush gets out of more trouble and hits a spin kick on Kushida. He takes him down with a clothesline but sells that his arm is hurting, so he can't really capitalize from it. He hits a few crossface shots before the match awkwardly pauses for a few seconds. Rush goes for the belt but changes his mind about it after the ref tells him off. He grabs Kushida's glasses to mock him but loses them in the ring. Kushida then just fights back but gets shot out of the ring after trying to lock in a submission hold. Rush with a handspring kick, but his speedy tope gets caught and turned into a hoverboard lock by Kushida, which was admittedly a pretty dope spot. Kushida with more attacks to the arm, but Rush counters with a Spanish fly that Kushida also turns into a hoverboard lock, very impressive. After a while, in the hold, Rush rolls up Kushida and evades him again. Both strike each other and go down. After a strike exchange, Rush directs Kushida to strike the referee and hits a low blow. This is enough for Rush to hit a blow and retain the championship.
This was a really solid opening contest, even though there was a point in the match where it seemed like they didn't really know what to do with each other, and that kind of affected the crowd as they were kind of out of it and they didn't really get hyped. I still enjoyed the story that they were trying to tell, with Lio Rush being the chicken shit heel champion that only could overcome the more skilled challenger by playing dirty. I'm giving the opening contest a solid B-. Even though I enjoyed it, it didn't really hype up the crowd, and that's the main job of a opening contest. They didn't really accomplish that, but they didn't also utterly fail, so I think a B- is justified.
We get footage from earlier that day where Bully Ray tried to run over PCO with a car. It looked hilarious, by the way. PCO is shown being attended to by EMTs, but of course he just gets up. One of the EMTs pulls a funny face and almost corpses. MK Ultra have been on a roll, and I really enjoyed their dominant run so far. Masha and Shaw start at the match, with the crowd being super into Masha. Shaw makes the mistake of slapping Masha, so she gets clotheslined into oblivion. Kelly gets tagged in, and MK Ultra hit a high-low kick attack, and then Kelly PK kicks Shaw and hits a delayed fisherman suplex. Jay Vidal then pulls apart the rope so Kelly crashes to the floor. Evans uses this to get control for her team and then works Kelly for a while. Shaw hits Shock and Awe for a 2 count and then a foot stomp in the corner. A nice butterfly suplex by Evans for another 2 count. She then hits a scary looking leg drop that made me fear her crushing Kelly's face, but fortunately Kelly was fine after this. Shaw then talks some trash to the crowd, but pays for it by missing a corner attack. This allows Kelly to make a tag, and then Masha runs wild. She hits wild kicks and strikes and takes down Evans with an intense spinning heel kick. Shaw and Evans then hit a double team move, but Kelly also saves the match. Evans then misses a kick and tags Shaw, and Kelly takes out Vidal on the outside. Masha eventually takes out Evans with a spin kick and hits a snowplow for the victory and title defense.
Another solid title defense by MK Ultra. I do enjoy that they're putting over the champions so strong, and even though this was just a really basic match, it was still very enjoyable. Just, one issue, I didn't really buy the challengers as a solid threat. At no point in the match did I really ever believe that there was going to be a different outcome other than the champions winning and retaining the belts. So I would be interested in seeing MK Ultra go up against challengers that pose more of a threat, but otherwise this was really fun, and I also do very much enjoy the intensity that Masha brings to the match. So everything after the hot tag where she came in was really fun and exciting. I'm giving this one another solid B- as well.
Through a compelling transformation over the past couple of weeks, and some backstage interviews that culminated in him sporting a new look and entrance, and also apparently he wants people's eyes now for some reason, I really dig his entrance, but I'm unsure of what to make of the character or where this is going from here. Be that as it may, he's taken on his former stablemate Black Taurus in this one. Taurus takes the fight to Steve and overpowers him early on. He hits a nice power slam on Steve, who quickly goes to the outside to turn the match around in his favor. Taurus hits some nasty chops, but Steve evades his charge attack and fires back with some strikes. Taurus then gets crotched and then clotheslined from the ropes. Nice. Crazy Steve tries to go for Taurus' eyes, but is not successful in his endeavor, so he hits a leg sweep. He works Taurus' neck and goes for some attacks on the corner, and eventually Taurus is able to overpower Steve, and they shuffle for control. Steve hits an incredible crucifix driver for a 2 count. He tries for something else, but Taurus pops him in the air and hits a nice Samoan drop for a 2 count. Taurus then strikes Steve down, who takes a nasty headbutt and some sling blades. A discus clothesline later, Taurus hits an awesome Argentine backbreaker from a modified torture rack position. Steve starts backing down and claims not to be wanting to fight his friend anymore. Taurus is conflicted and turns his back on Steve, so Steve of course just clocks him from behind and gets a fork from underneath the commentary table. He's trying to go for Taurus' eyes, but Taurus disarms him, so Steve just uses his thumbs instead. He hits a tornado DDT and wins the matchup.
To be honest, I didn't really expect much from this match, but I turned out to be quite surprised by the quality that they offered. It was quite shorter than the other previous matches, but Steve and Taurus really flowed well together and had some really nice spots in there. And the match also did a great job of introducing or reinforcing Steve's new character, making him seem more crazy, more unhinged, more dangerous. They flowed really nicely together, they had a competitive match with a nice story. I'm giving this one a B.
We get an emotional promo by Tommy Dreamer, whose career is on the line in this Digital Media Championship match. While the crowd has been getting into the show more and more with each match, they are absolutely wild for this one, and especially Tommy Dreamer. They go mental when he gets announced being from Yonkers, New York. I mean, it makes sense considering Tommy Dreamer having a lot of history in this building, especially with ECW. Tommy also is in Terry Funk tribute gear that I think looks absolutely hideous. They try to do some back and forth, ending in a standoff, but it's a bit slower and less exciting than usual. Still, they do a good job of hiding the weak link here, and the crowd gets really into it. Dreamer takes Kenny King to the outside with a clothesline, and the crowd goes absolutely nuts for it. Tommy then works Kenny on the outside and spits some water into his eyes. He tries for a dive, but Kenny King stops him with a kick. King slowly makes his way back to the top rope, but gets cut off by Dreamer. Kenny suplexes Dreamer on the ramp in a nasty affair. Back in the ring, Kenny mocks Dreamer by using Dusty Rhodes' signature punches, while Dreamer almost falls on the apron afterwards. Kenny hits a twisting plancha to the outside and makes Dreamer beat the 10 count, which of course he does. Kenny misses a really tiny leg drop and gets perplexed by Tommy Dreamer as both men go down for a while. They exchange strikes before Dreamer uses the Dusty Rhodes signature and bionic elbow. Kenny counters a Dreamer charge with a spine buster of sorts. King motions for sweet chin music and says, I'm sorry, I hate you, which I thought was hilarious. Dreamer then hits a cutter for 2 and goes for a Spicoli driver, but King gets out and hits a blockbuster. King goes for a spinning toe hold, but Dreamer rolls him up for 2. They go exchanging covers for a while until Dreamer hits a Spicoli driver and a pile driver for a close 2 count. Dreamer then goes for a moonsault, but Sheldon Jean crutches him. The ref kicks out Jean for that, so Heath shows up and hits the wake-up call on King. Dreamer hits the DDT and wins the matchup as the crowd goes absolutely bananas.
I did not expect Tommy Dreamer to win this matchup. I really thought this was the point where he could end his career in dignity and grace, but alas, I was surprised. But, 2023 was a bit about Tommy Dreamer. He had a story arc going on, so this didn't come quite out of nowhere, but it was still surprising. They had a solid matchup here, and they hit Tommy's weaknesses quite well, and they really got the crowd invested in the match. This was the point where it felt like the crowd really was waking up in the night, so they did a terrific job in doing that. I didn't really enjoy the outcome. Tommy Dreamer doesn't need another championship belt, but whatever, we'll see what they're going to do with that. But still, this was a really solid and fun match. Nice spots, nice drama, everything really well done, despite obvious limitations. This one gets a B+.
Deonna offers a handshake, but Jordynne just slaps her for the disrespectful words that she had before the match. She batters Purazzo and hits a Northern Light suplex, but then awkwardly misses a dive attack. Purazzo uses this to ram Grace into the apron and stomp her arm on the outside. Purazzo focuses her offense on the arm of Grace, twisting her arm and fingers multiple times. Grace just fights back with some strikes, and they go back and forth for a while. Grace overpowers Purazzo with some body slams and a Michinoku driver. Grace with a nasty clothesline to the back of Deonna's head, but one clothesline with her injured arm leaves an opening for Purazzo to fight back, hit a suplex and lock in an armbar. Purazzo goes for a pile driver, but Grace shoves her into the apron and hits some chops. She sets Purazzo up on the top rope and hits a delayed superplex, holds onto her and hits an additional jackhammer for a 2 count. Really impressive. Deonna is able to hit a pile driver variation for a 2 count. Both go for a clothesline at the same time, and they go down. They exchange strikes for a bit, then go back and forth with counters until Jordynne hits a powerbomb. Purazzo fires back with a pump kick and German suplex. Still, this isn't enough, and so Jordynne hits a fade to black for another 2 count. Grace then tries a muscle buster, but Deonna wiggles out and hits a nice head scissor transition into an armbar. Purazzo tries for a pile driver again, but Grace powers out and hits a big clothesline, and then the juggernaut driver for the victory.
A solid outing by both involved. I felt at the beginning Jordynne Grace showed a bit of nerves and insecurities, but they got past that really quickly. After that they resolved this, they had a really fun and exciting matchup, going back and forth, flowing really well, having a snappy and exciting matchup with Jordynne Grace coming out on top, which led to a nice feel-good moment for the crowd that also served to build up another credible competitor and challenger for the Knockouts Championship. As we will see, that will happen at Hard to Kill, but they started planting the seeds for that right here, which is a really good job and a really nice long build with a credible competitor. And Jordynne also, had this arc where she couldn't defeat Deonna Purazzo, and this was finally the moment where she overcame those odds. So really well done. I'm giving this one a B+ as well.
PCO and Bully Ray have been at it for months now, and Bully desperately has been trying to avoid having to fight PCO. He tried to run him over, light him on fire, and much more. Still, PCO was unstoppable, and here we are, hopefully getting into the final chapters of this feud in an anything goes match. The fight starts out backstage, and we take a whole while to get to the ring. Bully gets the advantage and beats down PCO with some weapons. He then proceeds to set up some tables and ends up putting PCO through not 1, not 2, but 4 tables. Of course, this isn't enough to keep PCO down, and Bully tries to leave the match again. Santino Marella and security stop him, with Santino hitting the Cobra on Bully. This kills all the seriousness this match had, which was very little to begin with. This turns the tables for PCO, who starts firing at Bully with a trash can. He goes for a huge ladder and suplexes Bully onto it. He then goes for a dive, but Bully Ray slams him into the ladder, which looked quite painful. Bully with more tables. He then brings in a cowbell into the match and pulls a hilarious face. PCO Frankensteins up and punches right through a trash can, chokeslams Bully through a table, and gets a 2 count. PCO grabs a cheese grater and grates Bully Ray's private parts. He then puts Bully Ray on a table and hits a senton, but the table doesn't really break and both fall over. Bully Ray audibly calls for a clothesline, but PCO doesn't do it and Bully just goes to set up the collapsing table? What the hell was that? PCO sets up the table in the corner and sends Bully into it. He then covers him and picks up the win. Jesus.
Boy, oh boy, this was a whole lot of nothing hardcore match. Not only did it flow terribly well, it also was kind of awkward and not much really happened. It also didn't help that Bully Ray just ignored kayfabe for a while, trying to set up a damaged table, and the finish just went badly and wrong, and this was just awkward. The tone was off. They treated the storyline with so much seriousness, people trying to kill PCO, lighting him on fire, leaving him bloody, and then they worked comedy bits into the match, and just doesn't go well together in my opinion. This was not a good thing to watch. It was not very pleasant, but at least the crowd in White Plains cared. But still, I'm just giving this one a D, the worst grade in the history of this format, even though that's not very long.
Inexplicably, the Motor City Machine Guns started feuding with the Rascalz, and Shelley doesn't defend the world title for another special show. He's been defending it on Impact instead, which is alright, but also a strange business decision. We start off with Miguel and Sabin, who had a tremendous singles match earlier this year. We get the usual chain wrestling, with Miguel gaining the upper hand with a kick to the arm and dropkick. Shelley then with a blind tag and a double kick by the Guns. They take down Wentz with a big kick too. Stereo forearms by the Guns, but then the Rascalz fire back with stereo dropkicks and then a super kick on the outside. The Rascalz keep working Shelley for a while, with Wentz hitting a soccer kick but missing a shooting star press. Both Guns hit leg screws on Wentz and punish him some more, but Shelley locks in a figure 4 and Sabin does the same to Miguel. Shelley misses a kick and Wentz hits a handspring knee strike to make the tag to his partner. He goes for Shelley's eyes as well and hits a springboard body block. The Rascalz kick and stomp the shit out of Sabin and hit some tag team offense into the corners. Shelley counters the lightning spiral and hits a big clothesline for a double down spot. Sabin with a tope on both Rascalz, and the Guns hit a tag team dropkick, flatliner combination, back in the ring. Double kick to Miguel, and Shelley goes for the top rope but gets taken down by Wentz. The Rascalz use this to hit their double stomp team maneuver for a 2 count. Wentz grabs one of the title belts, but it's just a distraction for the other team member to use the other belt. It just gets a 2 count though. Miguel motions for the spray paint, but Shelley takes him out. Miguel takes them down the apron with a handspring kick and hits a beautiful somersault plancha. They go for the title belts again, but miss, and Sabin DDTs Miguel on the belt for a close 2 count. The good hands show up and cause a distraction again. Sabin gets spray painted in the face, and Miguel rolls him up for the quick victory.
This one was another really fun matchup. All 4 men had great chemistry, and they managed to set up a very entertaining matchup. The false finish and the distraction finish managed to protect the Machine Guns and make them look stronger, while also giving the other team a victory. The Machine Guns and everyone else involved in this matchup never seemed to hit full speed, which is a bit disappointing, knowing they can do much more. Maybe that's going to be saved for another time, who knows. It's a bit disappointing, but still it was very entertaining, so I'll just give that one a pass. It seems like Alex Shelley is showing more and more heel tendencies. We'll see where this one goes, but that seems to be the direction that they're building. This matchup gets another B grade.
We waste a lot of time before the match, trying to get heat from the crowd at hand. With the match finally on the way, Trinity overpowers Alisha and hits her with a split leg drop. Alisha just flees to the outside for another break. They haven't been doing much before as Trinity hits a dive and a kick. A bulldog gets blocked, and Alisha hits a wonky neck breaker. She works Trinity and tries to hit a tornado DDT, which Trinity blocks. She gets drop toe-holded into the turnbuckle, and Alisha hits a low cross body in the corner. She then goes for body scissors, but apparently doesn't know how, so Trinity has to visibly guide her into place. This was painfully bad to watch. Alisha has been wrestling for about 14 years now, by the way. Trinity fights back with a clothesline and thrust kick and hits a nice backstabber type move. Trinity then accidentally hits the ref, and so Eddie Edwards interferes in the match, attacking Trinity. He sets up a table, but Tracy Brooks and Kazarian show up, making the save. They put Eddie on the table, and Trinity dives on him, which looked like she almost injured herself. Alisha hits Trinity with a candlestick for a close 2 count. Trinity then hits a kick and then a Bubba Bomb for the victory and title defense.
Alisha Edwards isn't great in the ring, and Trinity isn't much of a ring general yet, so she's not able to carry this kind of matchup. They did manage to get the crowd involved, even though doing very, very little, I just wish what they did would have been nicer looking or cleaner or had a better flow to it, but alas, it was very unclean, a lot of botched spots. Trinity had to guide Alisha a lot of times, and it really looked awkward, and so I cannot say that I enjoyed this one. It was quick at least, so I'm giving this one a D+. I'm giving this one the plus treatment because they got the crowd involved, but other than that, just, you're better off skipping this one.
Both stare each other down for a while before Alexander takes control of a charging Maclin. Maclin with the power advantage, but Alexander gets the better of him with a leg takedown. They fight for control, with neither getting a clear advantage until Maclin takes Alexander to the outside with a clothesline. Maclin rams Alexander into the apron, but he just hits a brain buster on the apron, ouch. Maclin grabs the previously injured arm, with Alexander selling the pain really well. Maclin hits a nice backbreaker after a heated strike exchange. Eventually Alexander starts to fight back and hits multiple German suplexes, the crowd going wild for every additional one. He ends up hitting about 10 of them with a big pop for a 2 count, with Maclin immediately grabbing Alexander's injured arm for an armbar. Maclin then hits a nice tope through the outside, with the crowd getting more and more behind Alexander. Back in the ring, Alexander tries to vault from the corner, but his arm gives out. Maclin uses the opportunity to hit the Olympic Slam for 2, Maclin misses a knee strike, and Alexander hits a back suplex, with both men staying down for a while. Alexander fights the big man with some strikes, until he's able to send Maclin to the outside. He hits a gnarly looking low cross body on Maclin, who's sitting on the apron. Maclin overpowers Alexander and hits a deadlift power slam. Yikes, Alexander really sandbagged him here. Maclin with an armbar, but eventually he gets out of it with some palm strikes. Maclin then tries a submission while sitting on the top rope, but Alexander uses this for a backbreaker powerbomb combination and locks in an ankle lock. Maclin slaps Alexander, who slaps back and hits what looks like a low blow. He hits a rolling elbow for a 2 count. Maclin goes for a knee strike, but Alexander turns this into the ankle lock again. Alexander follows this up with a really nice throw from a torture rack position for another 2 count. He goes for a moonsault, but Maclin cuts him off and hits a charge attack into the corner and then a DDT. Alexander falls out at the ring and turns a tope attempt into a belly-to-belly suplex, which looked really awesome and nasty at the same time. Back in the ring, they exchange strikes again until Maclin hits Alexander's arm and manages to hit 2 suplexes. He goes to the top rope, but misses a headbutt attempt. They shuffle for control. Alexander fakes a head strike, but kicks the groin instead, which allows him to hit the C4 spike for the victory.
I really enjoyed this matchup, and I gotta say it was my personal favorite of the night. Alexander and Maclin, they worked really well together. Everything they did had great intensity, and it seemed to serve a purpose, in trying to beat the other one. There was a nice story involved with Maclin trying to work Alexander's arm, and that factored into many spots of the match, and you were reminded of that all of the time, which I think was a great accomplishment by both. In the end, Alexander managed to overcome his competitor by being more technically versed and working smarter and calmer, and I think they had a great showing here that I really enjoyed, and it didn't feel like it went the length that it did. Everything was really snappy. I'm giving this one a A- grade. It was great stuff.